Right, so I got this heat shield directly from Vauxhall. My mate works there, so he gets me all the parts that I need. These are hard to find. For some reason they're black now. Don't know why, but I'm liking it anyway. Normally they're silver. That's the part number for them. Don't know why there's a little bloke on there. Not sure what that's about, but yeah. So I'm gonna get this on. I've got some. I'll show you these in a sec. Got some fuel clips. These are the fuel clips that go underneath the car that hold the brake lines and the fuel pipes. So you can see there's a little bolt inside them. There's the part number for them if you ever need them. And you can see on the outside there's the 2 brake pipes, and the other side there's the fuel vent return, and then the 2 fuel lines to the feed and the return. So if you need them, get yourself some. So just a quick one to help you when you get these off the car. Instead of having to snap these off because you can't undo this bolt, that head of that bolt is 5.5mm. Now obviously trying to find a 5.5mm socket is a bit of a nightmare, so I just use the 732s. It's an American socket, they use everything in inches. So there's the heat shield on. At first I wasn't happy with it being black because the original one is a silver colour, and I was even going to paint it silver. But when I'm offering it up against the car, actually the contrast against the red looks really good. And we are going to have the shiny exhaust all polished up. It's going to look really well. So that's why I think I'm going to leave it black. So what do you all think about the black heat shield? Because the original one is silver. It's just a plain unpainted colour. But this one's coated in a black, so it's like protects it from corroding. And at first I wasn't happy with it. I even told him to ring back up Vauxhall and say, why is it black and can you send me out a silver one? But now I've got it, apparently they've changed suppliers. I think it looks really good because with this shiny polished exhaust down the middle as well, I think the contrast against the red is really well. So these are the fuel lines and the fuel clips that come off the car. You can see how brittle they get. As soon as you move them, they start cracking. Obviously the bolts don't move either. So even the ones that I managed to get the brake lines off, they've still got cracks in them. You can see here, just get brittle. There's no way you're going to be able to put them back on. So if you're going to take off your fuel and brake lines from underneath, you just need to get another packet of them because as I say, the plastic's going to be brittle. These need a proper clean up because they've got like underseal and nasty stuff like that on them. So I'm going to give these a clean up, and hopefully they'll come up nice because I can't get hold of these from Vauxhall. I've tried already. So I just went over them all. The lines, you can see how nice they've come up. So I just rubbed them down with a bit of this intensive tar remover, which is not too harsh on it, and obviously I've replaced the clips as well. These are the old clips that come on it. You can see how nasty they were, and that one's, I think that's the only one that hasn't broken. All the rest of them are broken, but yeah, you can see the nice fresh clips on there now, so we can get that bolted to the floor pan of the car. The fuel lines and the fuel clips are on. Just got to find a decent set of front fuel lines now. I've got all the clips for them as well, the metal ones, because they were a bit corroded and I don't really want to be putting them back on. They was a bit ugly. And then the underneath of here, put an exhaust on it and it should be done. So you can see how nice that's come out. I can drop it down a lot lower now because I've done all that underneath. I don't need it up in the air anymore. So let's get it down. I guess we better get on with getting this back on the road. All I've got to do really is paint this engine bay up and I can start putting it back together. I took the wings off because I was going to paint the inner wings. I'm not sure I'm going to do that yet. Add a little bit of a wax and polish on the paint just to see how it come up. It's actually come up really nice. So the bodywork paint is actually pretty good still underneath all that dust. So if you haven't seen the previous episodes of how we got the underneath of the car looking like that, go and check them out first before you watch this one. So this is one of the reasons why I want to get this GSI out of the way, because obviously I want to get it rolling again. It's up on actual stands. I want to get this Fiesta RS Turbo out. At the minute it's just used as a storage unit. So we've got to get the interior back in it. It's got a load of Astra bits in it. Paints, all sorts of stuff. Obviously nothing's damaged in here. There's no rust inside or anything. It's actually pretty good still. So we want to get the interior back in this. So yeah, let's get this GSI out of the way so we can get on with that. It needs got a bit of welding needs doing, so we can get that out with the Escort in the summer and go to some shows. So then we've got the Escort, the Fiesta, we've got the Pro Drive Astra over there, and then a really rare red Astra GSI. So it's going to be fun getting all these together. So I just sanded down a few bits in the engine bay, a bit of surface rust because I hadn't put the primer on thick enough. The aim wasn't to leave it as long as I did, but I got sidetracked with other projects, so just going to get some more primer on that now. I've got rid of all that little bit of surface rust. I've rubbed down the bulkhead as well because you've got to key it if you're going to put epoxy back over epoxy. So I just finished up touching a few little bits up on the engine bay. Just seam sealed these joints here where I had to weld them. Just been sanding down some bits of old filler and that. Put some extra primer on the bare metal parts. I've let that dry now. So I'm going to get to flatten this engine bay down a little bit, and then we can get the base coat on. Obviously I've got to tape up all these areas here, so let's get on with it. So I've just went over the whole engine bay and I've been rubbing it down, sanding it down using Scotch pads and different grades just to get the primer smooth. It's an epoxy primer, 2K primer, which is really hard wearing, so when you sand it down you can get it lovely and smooth, but sometimes you go down to the bare metal, so you have to etch primer it or spot primer it, and that's what I've been doing. So I've been going around the engine bay. I've also tapered it into the existing bit of paint that was in there so that you can blend it in nicely. I've taped up all the sections that obviously don't need to be painted, and you can see that. So I've done the inner wings as well. You can see I've scuffed up this section here, and I've etch primed any of the little spots that have gone through to bare metal around here. I've just started to tape up the car, but I've run out of masking tape, so I'm just going to go out and get some of that now. You can see it ain't long to it being paint, so I've just got to spend you know how it is when you're painting, it's a lot more prep time than it is actually painting it. It's going to take me half hour to paint this. It's going to take me a couple of hours just to get this into a position that I can paint it. But you can see very rust free now, very nice, where you can see where I've obviously took out the seam sealer and it just looks a lot better, a lot cleaner. I welded up all the holes, so let's get on with taping the rest up. Just got to go out and get some more. So another day, I thought I'd video in the daylight instead. I masked up the car last night, but it was frosty, so it's damp underneath there. It ain't going to matter. Just going to keep the dust off even better anyway. So I've blended the chassis legs in. You can see I've keyed all that paint that I painted up previously, so it's not shiny anymore. So when I blend that paint in, it's going to actually adhere to the chassis legs instead. I've went over the engine bay with a dusting of air just to get any dust off, and now I'm just going to panel prep it. Then we can get some paint on it. So that's the final coat of paint on. I wanted to show you it in the daylight because it don't show justice in the night time. But you can see this is straight out the gun. How good that looks. It was terribly hard to paint because obviously it was so cold trying to preheat the metal. But you can see straight out the gun, it's obviously going to do a bit of polishing. We've got a couple of little runs. But for now, we can get it back together. So it's all untaped now. You can get a good representation of how it's going to look, the black against the red. This is going to be sanded down and painted. There was just a little rust spot here, so I etched that up beforehand. I don't want to take this off because everything mounts to that. All these brackets in here and everything. I don't want to pull the dash out yet, but if I do pull the dash out in the future, this will be taken off and powder coated properly. But for now, I'm just going to touch it up. The master cylinder sits over the top of this anyway, so you ain't even going to see it. So I've been trying to get all the nuts and that I can from Vauxhall brand new, just little things like this. This is for holding the master cylinder bracket on. You can see where this one goes. See the comparison between the two. Can't obviously put that back on there. It looks rank. So yeah, just been trying to buy packets and packets of stuff from Vauxhall brand new, whatever I can get hold of. So see the comparison between the two. So I'm going to get this servo painted up. Can't leave it on like this, so just going to sand off. Obviously the brake fluid has run down here, someone spilt it at some point, and it's just, this is what it does to your paint. So never get brake fluid on your paint because that's what happens. It acts like a paint stripper. Going to try and save this sticker just for a bit of originality. Going to sand this down, get a bit of primer on it, gloss black or satin black again, look nice. So is it sad that I've just went over my whole inner wings with tile remover, getting them spotless? Yeah, probably. But do I care? Absolutely not. So just sanded down the servo, got rid of any of the corrosion that was on it, any of the surface rust, also any of the flaky powder coat. You can see the powder coat's pretty good in most of the places, so I'm just using that as a primer. Blended it in as well. I've obviously taped up the sticker just to make it look a little bit more original. Other bits that I'm doing as well, just so that going that extra mile. Little clips like this, they would just normally be surface rust all over them, and they're used to bolt the wings to, so give them a little bit of a lick of paint as well, because I couldn't have them being on there rusty. So I decided to take this wiper mechanism apart just to clean up the motor, clean up this extra corrosion. You can see it's supposed to look like that. Give it a little bit of a key up, try and get rid of some of this corrosion. It's only aluminium anyway, so it's not going to rust. But I'm going to re-grease up these joints as well, just for a smooth mechanism. Just generally give it an overhaul. Problem with these mechanisms is they go dry, the grease goes dry on them over the years. No one really cares, and they don't really know they're getting noises from their wiper mechanism. They don't know why, and then it burns out the motor. I mean, you can hear how you've got the plastic on metal contact there, and the grease has totally dried up. It's all full of grit and everything. You can see really close up there, it's got hairs and all sorts in it. So it's well worth giving it a clean up while it's off. So that's what the mechanism looks like when it's all stripped down. You've got these aluminium bars, and they move in eccentric ways. You can see there's no grease left in any of these, and the motor is lovely and filthy. So you've got these ball joints, they need proper cleaning up. The grease is just literally like glue on it. I'm just going to key this up, rub it down, and get it looking fresh again. So there we go, the servo's all painted up. I went for a satin black instead of a gloss black. I think it looks a lot more OEM. I also managed to keep the sticker, didn't have to remove it either. The sticker looks like new still. It just gives it a bit more of a fresh OEM look. That's what I'm going for, the engine bay. Just looks a lot more tidy. So that's amazing the difference a bit of paint makes. And now it's going to have the protection, none of that nasty rust and none of that flaky powder coat. While we're on that subject, this is the linkage, the wiper linkage mechanism. Let's just move that servo out, it's scratched up. So this is fully rebuilt now. You can see how nice that's come out. What I've done is I've pulled off all the arms you see, and I've re-greased all the ball joints. So now we've got no dry ball joints, and the wiper mechanism really works nicely now. Reattached these. I've had the motor off, cleaned all that up, cleaned all the wiring. There was lots of dirt and nasty stuff around the wiring. It's not going to help, and the motor now works really nice and freely. I've just set the arm up to the factory position. You can see I've marked it all, locked up the nut. So now the wiper mechanism, we can get that in, and it looks like brand new as well. So I've also given the master cylinder a proper scrub up. It's come up really nice. It's been replaced at some point, and it's a genuine Lucas Delphi item, so there's no point replacing it. It's got a brand new sensor in it now, and what I've done is I replaced the O-ring as well that goes round onto the servo, so it's going to seal nicely. So yeah, there's no point replacing that with a brand new item when it works perfectly. So we have to address this surface corrosion that's on this backing plate that the servo and everything, the slave cylinder for the clutch all bolts to. I'm not going to remove it because you can see the dash is right behind there. It means I've got to pull the whole dash out just to do it. These are the nice new fittings that I've just fitted to it. You can see how nice they look against the red. But I'm going to sand all this down, and I'm going to do some proper taping up so we don't get no overspray on any of this red fresh paint. So let's get to sanding that down with a DA. Just what I'm going to use for that is just a little mini DA air sander with a 120 grit. Just going to get rid of the surface corrosion. It ain't got to be absolutely perfect. The servo is like massive, as you know. It sits right out here, so you're not going to see it anyway, but I just want to make it look a bit tidier. So I won't take no chances when I take this up. I'm making sure I'm getting no overspray on this fresh red paint. I've just used the primer that I like to use on spot repairs. It's a really fast drying primer, so it's going to allow me to be able to paint this tonight. It's quite a nice temperature out at the minute, so it will dry quickly, and then we get some fresh black paint on it. So this is the plastic trim that goes over the wiper mechanism, and I've given it a proper degrease and a clean, but obviously it takes out all the oils and that out of the plastic, and it looks like grey when I want it to be black. So I'm going to just use some trim restorer There's plenty of really good ones on the market. I haven't got no really high quality one at the minute. But I don't really have much plastic on my cars. But I'm just going to use this black trim wax, and it will come out nice. I've done it before, so let's get painting. So this stuff's pretty good for the money. You can see it's like a dye rather than like a silicone that makes it just shiny. Actually dyes the plastic black, so it goes from that nasty dull grey. It's a nice shiny black effect. You see the difference. But when you're using this stuff, make sure you use gloves because it stains your fingers and nails. I've used it loads of times before. So I've completely done that now. I'm just going to let it dry. It sort of stains the plastic, so it actually dyes it rather than just putting a shine over the top of it. And then I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to put another coat over the top, and then I'll get it on. So that's all painted now, gloss black. I went for with that one because that was the original colour. No corrosion there now, looks a load better. Little things like that, they make a massive difference. You won't really see them, but once it's done, it's done. And it looks clean. You can see I've put in the wiper mechanism as well, and the motor. The wiring just clips to the strut tower. So yeah, that looks really nice. I know you ain't going to see it, but at least the wiper mechanism is going to be loose and free and working like it did when it came out of the factory. So if anyone wants to know where the servo is, the bolts for the servo, to remove it if you're doing engine bay work, it's up here. So this is the servo that's coming through here that I've just put through the bulkhead, and this is the pin. You've got to remove this. Just try and get that out for you. I've just put that back in, but anyway, that's what you've got to remove. I can't bother to take it back out now. Oh, there you go. Right, so you can see that's coming out. I'm not going to take it fully out because it takes a while to get lined up. And you can see that bolt there. There's only 2 bolts, and there's another one round the back here. You're going to need a 30mm socket with a flexi head, and it's got to be a deep one as well. So yeah, just remove them 2. Remove this pin off the brake pedal. Remember when you put this back in to use the proper clip as well, because you don't want that coming off when you're braking on track, and then you end up with no brake pedal. So now it's onto this nasty loom. Luckily it's not very greasy or rotten, and the wiring and connectors are all good on it, but it's so much wiring to put in the engine bay. You've got a really clean engine bay like that, and now I've got to put this nasty loom in it with all this boxes and everything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it in so that when the car's running, I know all the electrics work fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip it down and wire tuck it, because I can't have this in the engine bay. It's terrible, especially it's going to ruin that. So what I'm going to probably do is put the fuse boxes behind this plastic panel so they're hidden away. The ABS pump sits here. I was thinking of relocating it, but I can't really relocate it anywhere. I've tried and it's too big. So now that is what we're up to now. We're going to strip that down, tape any bits that need taping up, give it a clean up and put it in. There we go, the servo's on, looking mint. Master cylinders on as well. Brand new locking nuts for them. Fluid reservoir, that's all been cleaned up. I was looking for one of these online last night, but I couldn't find one, but it's pretty clean anyway. It hasn't stained like the header tanks do. We've got the fluid drain down to the slave cylinder, the clutch slave cylinder, that's on as well. I've put a brand new fluid drain. If you want to know what they are in the engine bay, they're a fluid drain for the airbox and the aircon, for the condensation. I've put brand new bolts in with them and brand new gaskets as well. What I've done as well is I've put the wings on. The wings are on both sides now, are on, and that way I can put the bonnet back on. I've left these nuts loose because I'm going to put the bonnet on and line it all up properly. I want to put the struts as well on the bonnet so the bonnet can go up and it protect the engine bay now. Right, so it's about time I ended out this video. I just wanted to get this video update. There's a lot of comments wanting the GSI update. So it's looking more like a car now. I've just went over the panel gaps. You can see I fitted the bonnet. Just started to temporarily fit the loom. Pop up the bonnet quickly. I've put some struts in here as well so that it holds the bonnet up, because it's obviously still up in the air. I've got no other way to hold the bonnet up. So you can see I've put this mess of wiring in here now. I've started to clip it on in places. It's going to be tidied up, cleaned up, and in the future it's going to be wire tucked. I've already thought of ways that I'm going to move the wiring about, inner wings and up these panel up here so that we can still access it. So yeah, I'm going to edit this video up now, get it up on YouTube so you can watch it. And we've got a car that's taking shape, and not looking like Scrap Heap Challenge anymore.